The city of Lareth burned beneath a blood-red sky. Crystal towers cracked and fell as plasma fire rained down from the clouds. Screams echoed through the alien streets while silver war drones swarmed the sky like angry wasps. The royal guards fought bravely, but one by one they fell, their armor melting under the energy blasts. Princess Lysera ran through the smoke, her long violet hair tangled with dust and ash. Her heart pounded as she clutched the glowing crest of her mother's house. The queen had ordered her to flee, to survive. But the path to the evacuation ship was gone around her. The once beautiful city of her people had become a storm of death and ruin. Then through the chaos she saw something strange. A tall figure stood at the broken gate, wearing black armor scratched and burned by battle. He was not one of her people, his face hidden under a Terran helmet marked with the faded insignia of Earth Command. No one had seen a human for centuries. Many believed their kind had vanished after the Great War of the Stars. Yet here stood one, silent and calm, his rifle humming with blue energy. Lysera stopped, frozen in shock. The man turned his head slightly, his voice deep and steady through the comm link. "Stay behind me," he said. Then he walked straight into the firestorm. The alien drones noticed him at once, spinning and locking on. Hundreds of red sensors glowed as they fired. But the human moved like lightning. He dove, rolled, and fired precise bursts that turned each drone into a cloud of sparks. His armor smoked, his breathing heavy. But he did not stop. He fought as if pain did not exist, as if death itself feared him. Lysera watched from behind the rubble. Her people had fought bravely too, but none like this. There was no fear in him, only purpose. Every shot he took was perfect, every step forward sure and measured. It was as if the human had come from another time, from an age when courage was carved into their blood. Then a plasma shell hit near her position, the shockwave throwing her to the ground. The human turned instantly, sprinting through fire to reach her. A drone hovered above her, charging its weapon. Lysera raised her hands, helpless. But the man jumped between them, the blast striking his chest. The explosion threw both of them across the street. The human crashed against a fallen pillar, smoke rising from his armor. Lysera crawled to him, coughing. "Don't move," she said, her voice trembling. "I can call for help." He smiled weakly behind the cracked helmet. "No time." "They'll keep coming," he said. She shook her head, tears falling. "Why would you do this? You don't even know me." The man's hand trembled as he touched her arm. "Doesn't matter. You're someone worth saving." More drones appeared, hundreds of them descending like a storm. The human rose again, even as his armor sparked and his wounds bled. He lifted his rifle and shouted through the comm, "Run! Get to the palace. Tell your mother." "The humans still stand," Lysera hesitated, but the look in his eyes made her obey. She turned and ran, but kept looking back each time she did. She saw him fighting alone, against an army that should have crushed him in seconds. The last thing she saw before the smoke swallowed him was his figure standing in the open street. His rifle empty, his body covered in ash. He reached for a fallen sword, a weapon far too heavy for most, but he swung it as if it weighed nothing. He cut through the drones until the blade glowed red. Each strike was the echo of ancient wars, the kind of fight no alien had ever seen in centuries. When Lysera finally reached the palace gates, the sky cracked with thunder. The city's defense grid failed, and the invading fleet began to land. The queen's guards rushed to protect her daughter. But Lysera could only cry. He stayed behind. The human stayed behind. Queen Aelira stepped forward, her silver crown reflecting the burning horizon. Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed sorrow. "Where is he now?" she asked. Lysera fell to her knees. He fell protecting me." The queen placed a hand on her daughter's head and looked toward the city. For a moment the fire and smoke parted, and there, at the center of the destruction, she saw a flash of light where the human had stood. Then it vanished, swallowed by the storm. The queen closed her eyes and whispered something ancient. "A warrior's soul does not die in silence," she said softly. She turned to her council. "Prepare the chamber of echoes," they gasped. Knowing what it meant, the queen ignored them, her voice rising like thunder. "If a human can die for my daughter, then I will defy death itself to bring him back." As night fell over the ruined city, the fires dimmed, and deep beneath the palace, a stasis chamber began to hum. Its lights flickered with strange, ancient symbols, some alien, some human. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Queen of Lareth prepared to awaken what even the stars had forgotten. A promise, a vow, and a human soul waiting to return. The Queen of Lareth stood before the stasis chamber of eternal echoes. The air around her shimmered with power older than stars. The room was silent except for the hum of energy flowing through the runes carved into the floor. Her council begged her to stop, but she no longer listened. "He died protecting my daughter," she said softly, her voice trembling with grief and fury. "If such a man can give his life for us, then I will give mine to bring him back." Her words echoed through the golden hall, and the council fell silent. None dared argue with the queen when she spoke of vows. Princess Lysera stood beside her, eyes red from crying. "Mother." "He was human," she whispered. "Our laws forbid using the chamber on another species." The queen turned to her daughter, her expression filled with pain. "Our laws were written in comfort, not in gratitude," she said. "This human showed us the meaning of sacrifice, something our kind has forgotten." The stasis pod in the center of the chamber glowed faintly. Inside it lay the body of the Terran soldier, Captain Orion Vale. His armor was cracked and blackened, but his face looked calm, almost peaceful. The queen reached out, her hand hovering above the glass. "Do not fade." "Warrior of soul," she whispered, "your battle is not yet done." The chamber responded, ancient glyphs lighting up one by one. The air filled with whispers, echoes of forgotten souls. The queen closed her eyes as the chamber drew upon her life force. Her silver hair began to lose its color. Turning pale white still, she stood tall, her hands glowing with golden light. Lysera watched in horror as her mother's strength drained away. "Stop! You're hurting yourself," she cried. The queen smiled faintly. "Pain is a small price for a promise." Then the runes around them shifted, some no longer alien, but Terran, symbols no one had seen for 1,000 years. The council members gasped, "How can this be?" "The chamber is responding to him," one shouted. The queen's eyes widened as the symbols formed words in an ancient human tongue. "Project Dawn, humanity endures." She didn't understand the meaning, but she felt it. A pulse, a heartbeat deep within the machine. Suddenly the lights dimmed and the entire palace trembled. A beam of light rose from the stasis pod to the ceiling, piercing the night sky. Across the capital, the citizens looked up. Seeing the beam rise from the royal palace, they whispered in fear and awe, thinking the gods themselves had awakened. Lysera clutched her mother's arm. "He's gone, mother. Please don't lose yourself." But the queen shook her head, her voice soft yet powerful. "No, my child. He is not gone." Then she closed her eyes, entering the chamber's energy field. In the void between life and death, Orion's consciousness flickered. He saw flashes of battlefields, his fallen crew, and the stars of Earth long lost to time. He felt something pull him, a voice calling his name, not the voice of his comrades, but something ancient, something royal. "Orion Vale," it whispered, "you are not forgotten." Back in the chamber, the queen gasped as her spirit touched his. She saw glimpses of his memories, the burning skies of Sul, the fall of humanity, the last Terran fleet lost in darkness, and through it all, his unwavering resolve to protect life. No matter the species, her heart broke, but also filled with pride, she whispered to him, though he could not hear her clearly. "If you can still hear me, come back. Not for me, but for the promise you made." The chamber's glow intensified. The temperature dropped, frost spreading across the glass. Lysera screamed as the power surged out of control. Shattering the floor tiles, guards rushed in, but the queen raised a hand, stopping them. "Do not interfere," she commanded. "The bond is forming." For a moment, all was silent. Then the pod pulsed once, twice, then fell dark. Lysera ran forward, pressing her hand to the glass. Inside, the human still lay motionless. Tears filled her eyes. "It didn't work," she whispered, but before she could finish, the lights flickered again. A faint sound echoed, a heartbeat, steady and strong. The queen opened her eyes slowly, her body weak but her voice calm. "He is between worlds now," she said. "Neither dead nor alive." Lysera turned to her, confused. "And what does that mean?" "It means his soul has not yet chosen its path," the queen replied. "But I will guide him back no matter the cost." She fell to her knees, the chamber lights dimming once more. The council rushed to her side, but she waved them off. "I will not stop," she whispered, "not until he breathes again." In that moment, the storm outside grew violent, lightning striking across the alien sky, and in the deepest part of the chamber, Orion's fingers twitched, the sensors flickered to life. Showing faint neural activity, a voice echoed faintly through the room, soft, but unmistakable. Lizera. Everyone froze, their eyes wide with disbelief. The Queen looked toward the pod, tears welling in her eyes. She smiled and whispered the words that would echo across galaxies. The human lives. Orion Vale floated in a world without stars. There was no sound, no air, no pain, only a quiet, endless white. He tried to move, but his body felt distant, as if it no longer belonged to him. Every thought echoed like a whisper lost in a vast, empty hall. Then came a flicker of light, far away but growing closer. It pulsed like a heartbeat, slow, powerful, familiar. He felt warmth spread through the void, followed by a soft voice calling his name. Orion. Wake up, he turned, but there was no one there. Only drifting memories, the faces of his old crew, the sound of gunfire, the final battle of Earth. He remembered his ship falling into the black void. The last transmission sent to no one. Then the alien city, the princess. The moment he stood between her and death. He had accepted the end. Yet now something or someone refused to let him rest. From the mist, a figure appeared, glowing faintly blue. It was not human, not alien, but something in between. Its form shifted like energy wrapped in armor, its voice echoing through the void. You are between worlds, Orion Vale, it said. You stand at the crossroads of life and memory. He frowned, his instincts still those of a soldier. Am I dead? He asked, his voice sounding distant. The figure's light pulsed. You were, it said, until a queen tore the veil to bring you back. He felt a sharp pain in his chest, like his heart remembering how to beat. Why would she do that? He asked. I'm just a soldier. The figure stepped closer, its eyes glowing with the light of 1,000 souls. Because in protecting her daughter, you awakened something long forgotten. The spirit of humanity. Orion looked around, realizing the white mist now shimmered with faint outlines. Dozens, hundreds, maybe thousands of glowing figures, each one a warrior, a scientist, a dreamer, all human, all watching silently. Who are you? He whispered. The voice replied, We are what remains of your kind. Humanity may have fallen in the physical realm, but our essence still drifts among the stars. He felt both awe and sorrow. I failed them, he said. I couldn't protect my people. I couldn't save Earth. The light around him dimmed for a moment. Then the voice grew gentle. You did not fail, Orion Vale. You carried our spirit into another age. You showed the galaxy that humanity still remembers courage, still knows love, still stands for life. He clenched his fists, remembering the Queen's face, her daughter's tears. She's trying to bring me back, he said softly. The figure nodded. Yes, but the cost is great. She offers her own life energy to restore yours. Orion's heart tightened. Then stop her, he said. No one should die for me. The voice grew quiet. That is not your choice anymore, human. You gave your life freely for another. And now another does the same for you. The mist began to tremble as cracks of light appeared around him. Beyond the cracks, he saw flashes of reality. The Queen kneeling before his chamber. Lizera crying beside her. The alien city rebuilding under a dark sky. He could feel their pain, their hope, their faith in him. The voice spoke again. You have a choice. Orion Vale. You can fade into the eternal peace of the stars, or return to life as something new. He looked down at his hands. They were fading, turning into streams of light. He thought of his crew, of humanity's lost dream. And then he thought of Lizera, the way she had screamed his name as he fell. He clenched his glowing fist. If there's still someone to protect. I'm not done yet. The realm shook violently. The figures of light surrounding him began to rise higher. The central figure placed a glowing hand on his chest. Then take back your heart, warrior of Earth. Let the bond between your human soul and the Queen's power give birth to something never seen before. Light exploded around him, his consciousness spinning, falling, burning through layers of reality. In the physical world, alarms screamed inside the chamber. The Queen's pulse weakened, her skin glowing faintly with silver cracks of energy. Lizera shouted, Mother, stop. It's killing you. But the Queen smiled, whispering, No. It's bringing him home inside the pod. Orion's body convulsed as a surge of golden light filled the room. The human runes and alien symbols merged, creating a new pattern across the glass. A shape of wings, half Terran eagle, half alien phoenix. The pod burst open with a shockwave that threw everyone backward. Steam and light flooded the room and a figure rose from within. Orion Vale gasped for air, his chest rising, his eyes glowing faintly blue and gold. He looked alive but changed. Energy flowed through his veins like twin rivers, part human, part something far older. The queen collapsed to the floor. Exhausted but smiling, Lysera caught her, tears of relief in her eyes. He's alive. The human lives again, she whispered. Orion looked around in confusion, his voice rough but strong. Where am I? The queen lifted her head weakly, whispering, Home, warrior of soul. Welcome back, he reached out, helping her stand, but as he touched her, a spark of energy passed between them, a living bond. Invisible but real, the queen felt it too, and her eyes widened in understanding. Their souls had intertwined, one sustaining the other. Outside, thunder rolled across the alien skies. The beam of light from the palace reached into the stars like a new dawn, and across distant worlds ancient machines stirred. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy felt the echo of a human heartbeat. The legend of Orion Vale, the human who walked between life and death, had begun. The chamber still smoked from the explosion. Guards and scholars stood frozen, unable to believe what they were seeing. The man who had died for their princess now stood alive again. His armor cracked, his skin glowing faintly with golden veins that pulsed like lightning under his flesh. Orion Vale opened his eyes fully, and everyone in the room stepped back.
One eye burned with the sharp blue of a Terran soldier.
The other shimmered with the silver light of the queen's energy. It was as if two souls lived inside one body, bound together by something beyond science. He took a deep breath, his voice hoarse but steady. I remember dying, he said slowly. The queen, still weak, smiled through her exhaustion. And yet you stand, warrior of Sol, she whispered. Lysera ran forward, tears still on her face. You came back, she said softly. You really came back. Orion looked at her, and for a moment the war and the pain disappeared. He managed a faint smile. Guess I wasn't done keeping promises. But the peace did not last long. A tremor shook the palace, followed by distant thunder that wasn't from the sky. An alarm blared through the halls, and soldiers shouted reports through comms. The enemy fleet has returned. They're entering orbit. Lysera's face paled. They came back to finish us. Orion looked toward the windows where dark ships blotted out the sun. Then let's make sure they regret it, he said calmly. The queen tried to stand, but her strength faltered. Orion, she said weakly, your life and mine are now linked. The energy that revived you flows from me. If you fight and fall again, both our lives will end. Orion met her gaze and nodded. Then I'll make sure neither of us does. He turned to the stunned guards. Get me to the armory, he ordered, his tone sharp and commanding. They hesitated for only a second before obeying. Their instincts recognized the voice of a born warrior. Lysera followed him, her steps quick, her mind racing. You shouldn't fight alone, she said. You're not one of us anymore, he stopped, turning slightly toward her. No, he said. I'm both of you now. In the armory, he found the remains of his Terran armor laid across a table. It had been burned, shattered, useless. But when he placed his hand on it, the alien glyphs on the walls responded. They pulsed with golden energy, wrapping around the armor like living metal. Piece by piece, it repaired itself, merging with alien technology. When he put it on, the armor no longer belonged to Earth or Lareth. It was something entirely new. The first symbiotic warframe born of two worlds. Lysera stared in awe. You look like a god, she whispered. He shook his head. No gods left, just soldiers with unfinished business. He lifted his rebuilt plasma rifle, its core now glowing with twin energies. And when he stepped out onto the balcony, the alien city erupted in cheers. Word had spread. The human had returned from the horizon. Enemy dropships broke through the clouds. Columns of light rained down as the invasion began again. Orion's voice echoed through the palace comms. This is Captain Orion Vale of Earth Command. To all who still fight, hold your ground. The aliens who once doubted him now looked to him as their last hope. For the first time in history, a human led an alien army into battle. The queen watched from the command hall, her strength slowly fading through the soul link. She could feel every beat of his heart. Every surge of power he released felt like fire through her veins. But she did not stop him. He fights for us all, she whispered. Let him carry the flame. On the battlefield, Orion moved like a storm. He leapt across ruined towers, cutting through drones with his plasma blade. The air shimmered as his armor absorbed blasts and redirected them as beams of golden light. Each strike was more powerful than before. The alien soldiers rallied behind him, shouting his name. Vale! Vale, the human lives! Lysera watched from the front line, her pulse racing with both fear and pride. She had never seen anyone fight like him, not even her people's greatest warriors. There was something different now, something beyond strength. It was willpower, the human kind that refused to die. But deep inside, Orion felt the cost. Every time he drew on the Queen's energy, he felt her pain echo through his veins. He could feel her heartbeat slowing. The link between them was not just power, it was shared life. He looked toward the palace, whispering softly through his comm, "Hold on, Your Majesty. I'll finish this fast." At the heart of the battle, the enemy commander appeared, a towering machine wrapped in dark energy. Its voice boomed through the ruins. "You are no god, human. You are just a mistake kept alive by alien sorcery." Orion tightened his grip on his weapon. "Maybe," he said. "But I'm a mistake that fights back," he charged, blades clashing, explosions lighting the field like a second sunrise. The shockwave of their battle rippled across the city. Each hit echoed like thunder, shaking towers and skies. When the final strike came, Orion drove his blade deep into the machine's core. The explosion that followed could be seen from orbit, and as the light faded, he fell to his knees. Exhausted but victorious, the Queen gasped in the palace, clutching her chest as the pain seared through her. Her guards rushed to her, but she smiled through the tears. "He did it," she whispered. "He saved us." Her strength slipped away, her eyes turning soft and calm. "Now, let him live," she said before collapsing to the floor. On the battlefield, Orion looked up at the sky. He felt the link in his heart flicker. He knew something had changed. Something precious was fading. The Queen's energy was leaving him. He whispered to the wind, "No, not you too." Above him, the storm clouds broke, sunlight spilling over the ruined city. The war was over, but the cost was heavy. And as he looked toward the palace, he knew one promise still remained unfulfilled, the promise to bring her back. The battlefield lay silent under the golden light of dawn. Smoke curled into the sky, carrying the scent of burnt metal and dust. The enemy fleet was gone, reduced to drifting wrecks that glowed faintly in the atmosphere. The war was over, but victory tasted like sorrow. Orion Vale stood on the broken walls of the alien city. His armor dimmed, its golden light fading as if mourning with him. He looked down at the destroyed streets where his soldiers, human and alien alike, had fallen side by side. The cost of survival weighed heavy on his soul. He touched the side of his chest where he felt the faint pulse of the bond. It was weak now, flickering like a candle in the wind. He could still feel the Queen's heartbeat echo faintly inside him. But with every passing second, it grew quieter. Lysera ran toward him, her cloak torn, her face covered with ash. Her eyes met his, and she didn't need to speak. He already knew. "The Queen," he whispered. His voice breaking, Lysera nodded. "She saved you again. She gave everything." He turned toward the palace, the horizon shimmering with morning light. Every step he took sent a sharp pain through his veins, the dying bond struggling to stay alive. But he didn't stop. He would not stop. Not until he saw her one last time. Inside the grand hall, the Queen lay on a crystal dais. Her silver hair spread like threads of light. The healers knelt beside her, their faces pale and hopeless. Lysera followed silently, her hand trembling as she touched her mother's fingers. "They say she has only moments left," she whispered. Orion stood beside her, his armor still humming faintly with her mother's energy. He could feel it, her essence slipping away. Drawn into the stars, he dropped to one knee beside the Queen. "Your Majesty," he said quietly, "don't speak. Just rest." But she smiled faintly, her voice barely more than a whisper. "Rest? Humans never rest, do they?" He shook his head, tears forming in his eyes. "Not while there's something left to fight for." The Queen raised her trembling hand and touched his chest where the bond glowed. "Then fight to live," she whispered, "not to die again." Her eyes shone with faint silver light as she looked at him. "You are part of this world now, Orion Vale. My power is yours." "But my time is done," Lysera sobbed. "No, please, don't leave me." The Queen smiled weakly. "My child, life is not measured by years." but by what we give to others. She turned her gaze toward the human once more. I gave my strength to bring you back, Orion. Now you must give your heart to guide her, protect her. As you did that day, he bowed his head, his voice shaking. I swear it. The chamber trembled softly as the queen's glow brightened. Her spirit began to lift, rising like silver mist from her body. Lysera reached out, crying, Mother, please. But the queen smiled peacefully. Her final words were a whisper that filled the entire room. Love is not bound by form, or by death. A surge of light enveloped the chamber. The golden runes of humanity and the silver glyphs of Lareth united once more. The energy that had tied their souls flared one last time, then faded into calm stillness. When the light cleared, her body was gone. Only her crown remained, resting quietly on the crystal dais. Lysera fell to her knees, silent tears streaming down her face. Orion stood motionless, unable to speak. But he felt it, deep in his chest, the warmth of her essence now living within him, not as power, but as presence. A soft voice in his soul, calm and kind. Live well, soldier of Sol. Days later, the city began to rebuild. The people of Lareth hung banners not of mourning, but of unity. The Queen's crest and the Terran eagle were woven together into one symbol. The new age was born from two worlds that once had nothing in common. The story of the human who died and returned spread across the stars. To some he was a savior, to others a myth, but to Lysera, he was simply the man who kept his promise one evening. Orion stood on the balcony overlooking the recovering city. The twin moons rose above the horizon. Their light painted his armor in shades of blue and gold. Lysera joined him, holding her mother's crown close to her heart. She's watching, isn't she? She said softly. He nodded. She always will. She turned to him, smiling faintly through the tears. And what about you, Orion Vale of Earth? He looked toward the stars, his voice steady and calm. I think it's time humanity stopped being a memory. Lysera's eyes widened slightly. You mean... He smiled, the light of two worlds glowing in his eyes. I'm going to find them wherever they are, and when I do, I'll tell them what the Queen of Lareth taught me. Lysera stepped closer. And what was that? He looked at her, his expression soft, his words simple. That no soul is ever truly lost. Above them, the night sky shimmered as new constellations formed. One of them shone brighter than all others, a shape of wings, half eagle, half phoenix. The galaxy would forever remember the legend of the human who died for love, and the queen who refused to let him go. The story of Orion Vale and Queen Elara became the foundation of a new alliance, a promise written not in stone or treaty, but in sacrifice and hope and across the stars. Whenever someone whispered his name, they also whispered hers, for together, they had proven a truth that no war could erase, that humanity's heart still burned bright, even in the farthest reaches of the galaxy.